I got a joke I want to tell you. Okay. Is it about Kim? No, but she came to me. I said, there you go. Right away.
I'm going. And there's nobody else in here.
Got about 50 seconds left. I'll come around to let those that are done.
One is mine, right, Ms. King?
We just playing.
Thank you, Ms. King.
We just playing.
Got one for you, Caroline, I got one for you.
All right, there we go.
We're gonna get to that.
I got the hard one. Yep. Jingle.
She's right back.
I'm sorry, no, I told him I take you down, but you know, you should have told me that.
You gotta take it.
Right. I got one right here.
How about 10 more seconds?
Mr. Prince has one.
He drawing a picture of Snoopy over there.
Yeah, it's sure, that's all, I didn't get one.
All right. Back up here in 3, 2, 1. So glancing at these, we will answer a lot of these questions. We will go through, and the ones that we do not answer, we will get answers for you from administration. All right? So there are just 4 quick things that we're going to talk about. All right? And the first one is detentions. All right? After-school detentions have not been happening frequently or consistency, and so there's no need for them at this point. There's no need for teachers to give up their time after school. However, we still need some type of intervention and consequence in place before a child goes to something like a referral or a suspension. So what we're doing is we're changing from after-school detentions into lunch detentions, okay? Lunch detentions will take place every day, even Wednesday, in these assigned rooms, all right? The way this works is that for any infraction before 11 o'clock a.m., you will go to your grade levels method of tracking detentions, and you will track it for that day. The scholar will serve lunch detention that day. So for example, in 8th grade, we use a Google Doc. In 8th grade, we're going to go to the Google Doc. If it is before 11 o'clock, we will put in what the infraction was, lunch detention for that day. Okay? If it is after 11 o'clock, it is assigned for the following day, the next day. Okay? I know that there are some grade levels who are using like cards and things like that. Your grade level is still able to go forward with whatever tracking or documentation system you have in place. Okay, so it is inconsistent right now for how we are tracking per grade level, but as long as your grade level has a procedure for tracking and documenting who has detention, you can continue with that one, with that procedure. You still have to call parents about detentions, even if it is a lunch detention. You need to reach out to that parent by the end of the day. Okay, so we don't expect you to get the parent on the phone before the child serves lunch detention that day. That's not necessary, but the day it is assigned, you do need to let the parent know that it happened and that the child either served that consequence at lunch or they will serve it the next day at lunch. All right? Today in grade level teams, your grade level teams will decide the rotation for detention duty, okay? Take into account anybody who has current lunch duties, anyone who's free that time, take into account team members who may be teaching during lunch, and just come up with the schedule for detention duty now that no one has the after-school detention duty. Detention duty teachers are responsible for checking the Google Doc before their lunch, before their grade level's lunch, and to make sure we get all of those kids from the blue, line them up on the blue wall at lunch and walk them to detention. So children are not walking themselves to lunch detention. They get their lunch, they line up along the blue wall. You may have to remind them that they have lunch detention and ask them to line up. And once you have all of them, then take them to your detention room. They can stand and eat while they're on the blue wall silently. While they're in lunch detention, the expectation is that they are silent, they are eating, and that they are reading or working on something else academic. It is not a time for them to talk and socialize. It is not a time for electronics or any type of cell phones. It is not a time for them to draw, any of that. Silence, it is a consequence, all right? Any questions about lunch detention?
Can we move them to the front of the line to get their lunches first?
Yes, that is something you definitely can do, and I recommend it. So if you see some kids that you know have lunch detention, you can go ahead and take them and put them in the front of the line so they can get on the wall quickly. That is the best practice. Any other questions? Right. All right. So the other thing we had a lot of questions about was dress code. So dress code right now is a hot mess. I'm just gonna be honest with you. We have a lot of rules in place, and there's a lot to track and keep track of. And so what we've done is kind of condense some things down. In terms of jackets and things, scholars need to have a solid blue or a solid black jacket, sweater, hoodie. We will no longer attempt to determine what's the difference between outerwear or innerwear, what's fleece, what's not fleece, what's a cardigan, what's not a cardigan. If it's a heavy coat, it's solid black, it's solid blue. If they want to sweat to death in this building, then they can sweat to death in this building. That is not something we will try to police at this point. A lot of our colleges have things that are black and blue, but are very distracting in nature because they are embellished in some way. So logos need to be no larger than a quarter. That allows for if they have like an American Eagle hoodie or something and there's a little bird on it, that's fine. But our friends who have like, I don't know, love all across here, those things are not solid colored and they need to be gone. No hoods at all. We gave the kids the ability to wear hoods and tuck them in. Two things happen. The first and most annoying is that they look like turtles in the hallways. They all have this little hump thing. But the second is that these hoods keep getting, come out. They just come out. And so then scholars are getting in trouble and constantly being talked to about having a hood, right? So if it's a hoodie, it just needs to go off, okay? It just has to come off. Don't tuck it in, anything. We will communicate these things to kids in the next 2 days in lunch, and we'll start enforcing these things on Monday, okay? So solid color, no logos larger than a quarter, no hoods at all. Any questions about that? All right, shoes. They've been wearing, our girls especially have been wearing boots since it was cold. There will be no boots after March 31st. So the weather is warmer, there are no boots, all right? This will be communicated to parents during the Tuesday times next week, and it will also be communicated to scholars in lunch the next 2 days. No open-toe shoes, no open heels, and no high heels. No heels on your shoes, all right? We are no longer policing color or pattern of shoe. It can be any color, it can be any pattern, so long as it is school appropriate, all right? So if it's polka dot, that is fine. If it's cheetah print, that is fine. If it is, I don't know, marijuana leaves, that is not fine, okay? And this one just came up like yesterday because this just became a thing in the 8th grade. There have to be 2 matching shoes. So the scholars cannot swap their shoes and wear each other's shoes. That's very distracting. They need to have on 2 of the same shoe. Any questions about that?
What's the best way to frame this conversation with the scholars in terms of like hoods and things like that?
My plan for addressing this with scholars is that we're trying to keep things consistent and fair, and the current way that things are running, things are not consistent and fair. And so even though this may seem like a consequence, it's not a consequence, it is actually just an attempt to make sure that all of the rules are understood and that they're all being applied fairly, because some kids are getting in trouble for hoodies and some are not because they're all attempting to tuck them in and it just doesn't work. So they just have to take it off. Any questions? All right, we're moving through. Backpacks, all right? Scholars need to drop their backpacks off in their 5th period class regardless of the time that they come in the morning. I know scholars go to their 1st period class. I know I have a really bad habit of saying, just get in, just sit down because you're already late, I want you to get started. If a scholar comes to you in 1st period, they have their backpack, they need to go to their 5th period class and drop that backpack off. That's just how that has to happen, okay? 9th graders are still allowed to carry regular backpacks throughout the day. 6th through 8th graders are only allowed to have those really thin sling backpacks, okay? All the children, however, have various reasons that they think they need a backpack. None of them are valid, okay? None of them are valid. If a child has a backpack after first period, it is to be taken away from them. It is to be confiscated from them. But I have my gym shoes in there. Now you have to hold your gym shoes all day. I have my gym clothes in there. Now you have to hold your gym clothes all day. My iPad's in there. That wasn't smart in the first place, right? So take the backpack. Get the backpack to the front office, okay? Take the backpack to the front office. At the end of the day, they can go to the front office to collect their backpack. That's the only time. It has to be taken away from them, and we have to stop the excuse of, I have all of my things with me. Yes.
So when we take it away, we make them take everything out of it and then
Everything
take
they
it away?
Mhm.
Okay.
Everything they need, and we are not responsible for anything that is missing or stolen from your backpack. So if they want to leave something in there, they can leave it in there. We
Okay.
put it in there, but it's in
I
their
didn't know
best
if we were
interest to
just
take it
like
out.
making them like, okay,
Oh,
now
no.
let me have your backpack, take everything out of it.
Oh, okay, no, if they
Okay,
want to
well,
leave
there's
some of their
consequence.
stuff, if they want to leave some of their
Yeah.
stuff in there, that's fine, but we're not responsible for what goes missing
Okay.
inside of our site.
And can we encourage them to come buy the little bag from us still? The little
Yes,
bag.
please encourage them to get that. Or I had a random, like some plastic bags. If you guys have any of those plastic bags, I know I recycle all the plastic bags I get from the store and then they just pile up in my kitchen. Like, I plan on bringing some of those in. You can grab one of my little plastic bags and carry your things, that's fine, but you can't have the backpack. Any questions? All right, tardies. That's a lot of questions about tardies, all right? We are going to implement a tardy sweep system, all right? Our bells have been ringing this week, all right? But we know that for whatever reason, the bell system can be a little bit inconsistent. So the first thing I need for you all to do as teachers is to be very aware of the bell schedule and the time so that you are releasing scholars on time and starting class on time, regardless of whether you hear the bells or not, okay? When the bell rings for class to start, every teacher is to close and lock their door. Any child that is in the hallway at that time is going to get swept for a tardy by an administrator or a teacher that is around and would like to assist the administrators with that, which you're more than welcome to do because they will have a lot in the beginning, okay? For this to be fair for our kids, we need to make sure we're ending class on time. I know things happen a lot. I'm the worst. Well, actually, I used to always dismiss late. All this week, I don't know, spring break, I've been late for things done in class like 2 minutes early, but whatever. We have to let kids out on time so they have the entire 3 minutes to get to where they need to be, okay? So make sure that you're ending your class 3 to 5 minutes early so that you can have time to collect the exit tickets, clean up, do your closing. Because if we're rushing at the end and they're getting to class late, there will be too many scholars in the hallway to do tardy sweeps and then the system falls apart, all right? When class is supposed to begin, you close your door. The administrators will be in the hallway. They will gather all of the late kids. They will gather them. They will track them in Hero. So the administrators will track the scholars in Hero and administer any detentions or anything necessary in Hero. They will document those things. Now, grade level chairs, since we are on different tracking systems for detentions, be on the lookout. Administrators may be sending you an email for who has detention if they're unable to access the Google Doc, the card, or whatever. But as a teacher, you are no longer having to track those tardies in Hero. The administrators will do that, and they will issue the consequence. The administrators will give the scholar a pass. Do not let a scholar into your classroom without a pass from an administrator. Under no circumstances can a scholar be in the classroom without a pass from either their previous teacher stating that they were let out late or a pass from an administrator. All right? Yes.
When is this gonna start so that we know when to start expecting the passes?
Monday. Any questions? No? Any questions at all? I'm on a Disney thing, y'all. I just came from Disney World. All right.
The PE sweaters just need to be turned inside out, is that the policy?
That should be
Yep,
well.
it will be solid black at that point. Turn it inside out. It will be solid black.
was bigger than a quarter.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can we, as we establish this tardy system, can we also build a form so it's all unified, so they won't have this random piece of paper crumbled up in their pocket with, you
What
know,
do you mean?
just I'm saying, a tardy slip, or like
Oh,
a
yeah.
pass.
That's what the administrators will
We're
have.
gonna have that?
It's not gonna be like on a sticky note.
Right, so
No.
if you're coming from coach, one of the coaches' class or whatever, you
Oh, you
know,
want all
all the
teachers to have
teachers be on the same page with the package.
I have passes that I use, but
We can do that. I mean, the administrators are gonna have one consistent administrative pass, but they have unlimited copies.
I
So
usually-
they can make copies.
I usually put the date and the time if they were with me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just say, Coach, please let in from Coach McCoy, it says Coach McCoy, the date and the time that they were with me.
Yeah, I mean, and the administrative pass was definitely going to say like the date and the time, and so they can be let into class. Like I said, they have free copy codes, they can make copies for all of us, and we can use that as a standard pass, okay? That's no issue. Yes,
I have a question. Who's gonna contact their parents?
who's going to contact their parents for the detention?
Right.
That is an excellent question. That is what administrator should.
administrative.
For the detention about targeting?
Right.
In general?
I mean, because we're not doing after school detention,
Right.
it's gonna be a lunch detention. I mean, who's gonna contact their parents?
I am going to have to check on that. That is the one thing that we did not talk about. It was not made.
Thrown around, but it wasn't confirmed that the teacher would contact them by end of day, but Ms. Davis will confirm that.
And that's for tardies, is that
That's
what
for
you're?
tardies.
Just for
Okay,
tardies, right?
but if like I give this kid
A
a
lunch.
lunch attention, then I'm calling.
Oh, yeah, that's you.
Okay.
We're talking about
We're
the
talking
tardies.
about
Tardy.
Yeah, I was like,
I missed this, too. So is it 2 tardies as lunch detention, or is that 1 tardy you're?
I have to check the HERO system. I believe that it is the third tardy that is a lunch detention in HERO. Because I believe it'll come up first to say warning, and it'll come up second to say parent contact, and then it comes up detention.
So the admin will take care of all the heroes stuff when it comes to tardies,
Mhm.
and they'll tell us, you said that they'll email us? we have it?
They'll let us know who has detention. What we just discussed was we have to confirm, is it an administrator or is it a teacher
Okay.
that is contacting the parent for the detention?
Alright.
Yes.
How are we handling the kids that actually get to school late?
Hmm?
The kids that actually get to school late?
They're swept.
They're swept.
They're swept also.
Okay.
8 o'clock, bell rings, close it, they get swept along with all the kids who didn't get to class.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, uniform violations are a lunch detention automatically?
Grade levels have been doing that rather inconsistently, so it's still up to grade levels to decide what type of system they would like to have for that. Just being transparent, in 8th grade, almost every teacher's doing something different, so that is something that we'll definitely have to norm across the board, but it's up to grade levels.
Belts,
Yes.
girls and boys. If they're wearing pants, they need to have belts, right? Regardless if they're a boy or regardless if they're a girl, boy or girl. Because we have been enforcing it for boys, but girls are walking around with pants with no belts either.
That is something, if that's not written down, we can write down and bring to administration, because, just being honest with you, belts is almost like a shoe issue at this point. We can sweep this hallway and find 100 children who don't have on belts, and only 5 have been spoken to that day. And so, we'll have to speak with administrators about is that a battle they're willing to fight
Right.
here at their
Because it's like a daily basis. Yes.
Are we letting them do whatever they want with socks too?
socks.
Because I see all
They
sorts
do
of-
need to wear them.
They
That
do
was the
need to
question.
wear.
They do need to wear
them. And socks will
I see
follow.
lots of no socks, so I was just.
Socks, they do need to wear, they do need to wear socks, but socks will follow the same guidelines as shoes. So, no crazy, inappropriate, you know,
And if they're tucking their pants into their socks, that's okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that has never been on the books that you couldn't do it, and that's what kids do, they find things to do that we didn't think about, and so they get that one for the 2014, 2015 year.
And headphones, they should not have headphones exposed, they should be put away.
How about them Bluetooth I've been saying the kids wear?
No, no, this is a professional environment, and they're not expecting any business calls.
I'm sorry?
The phone is off.
All right, there are some questions here about gum. It says, do students receive a detention for gum? Students can receive a detention for gum, they've always been able to receive a detention for gum. I usually give a warning, and then after that warning, then you get a detention for gum. So now it would be a lunch detention instead of an after-school detention, yes.
For cell phones, once we take it, we give it to administration.
Mr.
Is that
Smith,
still,
yes.
okay.
Yes, that's still, cell phone policy has not changed.
Okay.
Mhm. Any other questions?
So when you're saying you give the warning, is that if you see it again that day?
Mhm.
you get- Not, okay.
Yeah. See you again that day. So yes, that means I tell Angelica, well, Miss Fair, I'm out every day.
But then to,
I do not need our detention for that, but if that's something we wanna go over in grade level teams where that's no longer appropriate, we can always do that. All right, so hopefully this cleared up some of the things, that there were questions about. The things that are still on the table that we cannot answer, the things, so this one says, are scholars supposed to be sitting with their class during lunch? The short answer is yes. The honest answer is that we don't do a really good job of policing that. I don't do a good job of policing that. I teach art third period, and I never know who's actually in my art class, because it's art. So, I mean, there are children sitting at my table, and I'm like, you weren't with me just now, like, I don't know you, right? So, yeah, we're not doing a good job of policing that, but yes, they are supposed to sit with their class at lunch. Raise your hand if you think that scholars should be sitting with their own class at lunch.
They're not coming to my office.
No, they need to be in the cafeteria.
I know that they're not.
But I'm saying, they need to be sitting with their class and no other class at lunch. Okay?
The seventh grade. At least for the upperclassmen, the sixth and the seventh. I would
So
like
the
to
6
see
and
that.
7. Okay, so that's something we can talk to Mr. Smith about. That's above my pay grade. We'll just ask Mr. Smith.
I have a question.
Yes.
These sixth and seventh graders that are born in my office at lunchtime, how are they getting like the cafeteria? To come in my office?
Honestly, they're not going to the cafeteria. Like, they come to your office before they even hit the cafeteria. They never make it.
Sometimes it's not even the office, sometimes it's
That's one
just the hallway.
scenario, right? That's,
Yeah, that's one scenario. I see them slide into the door, like, as they're going down the hall. They never make it to the cafeteria.
but they're always saying, I'm with Dr. Hurd, they're not with me. I'm like, oh, you know.
So I think since there are students that are abusing the system of being able to go see Dr. Hurd, if you have not got email, verbal confirmation from Dr. Hurd that there is a scholar that is supposed to be with her for intervention, then they are not allowed to go. We can always assume that they are not allowed to go unless Dr. Hurd has said that she could, that they could.
So sometimes they don't even, it's like not even, it's like a passing period and they just like don't show up to the classroom and they just sneak in and like, and so it's kind of like she's saying, they're not even asking us to go see her, they're just doing what they want.
So passing period, so if they're going in during passing period, so let's as teachers keep that door closed.
Yeah.
And let's as teachers just be more diligent about kicking kids out when they come in. When a child comes into the room, they need to go immediately. They're in the hallway too long, they'll be swept by administration.
Maybe we can put a sign up there.
And-
Issue with the teacher.
I think,
Once at a time, we have 4 more minutes.
Ms. Edwards had brought up during lunchtime to keep that door, keep it locked, so there's only adults in there, that would also remedy that problem, it's only adults in there during lunchtime.
So for eighth grade lunch, are you guys gonna
We are gonna talk to Mr. Smith about it, and see, the general consensus seems to be that you all don't mind if the 8th and 9th graders sit elsewhere so long as they remain seated.
I disagree with that.
Are we mixing grades?
So-
Yeah, not grade, like 8th grade, sit with 8th grade, 9th grade, sit with 9th grade.
Okay, I said things wrong, but 8th graders don't have to sit with their table,
Right.
that's what
Gotcha,
I'm
right.
So 6th and 7th grade are sitting by their class.
With their class. With their class, yes.
For sure, 6th.
All the hands that came up were 6th and 7th grade hands, that's how I got to this. That's how I got to this decision.
I would like for my kids to sit.
That's how I got to this decision, was that when I asked all the 6th and 7th grade hands, when I'm sure I got it.
I was just clarifying.
Bathroom. So, they are allowed to go to the bathroom during lunch. They're actually encouraged to go to the bathroom during lunch so that they don't go so much during intervention. At one point, I had passes up there. I don't know where those passes went, so I'm not making any more. But if somebody else would like to make some passes, if somebody else would like to make and laminate some passes, the system was that there were 4 girls' passes and 4 boys' passes that hung up. In order to go to the bathroom, there had to be a pass available. So that way there's no more than 4 boys and 4 girls in the bathroom at any one time. That is what I recommend for us at lunch to keep the numbers down. Whoever would like to make those passes.
And that's what Ms. Jackson and I do. We actually made our own little passes when we sit there during our break. It's but only on A day, so I don't know how it goes on B day. So when kids say, oh, they'll look us, oh, I gotta get a pass. And we're trying to keep it consistent, but only one problem with that is our kids are coming from that direction. They're going outside that door. If teachers who are doing lunch duty only let them go out the main door.
Yeah,
Because they're sitting in that hallway and they're going back that way, like, oh, I gotta go this fast, and that's the cafeteria. I don't know what they do.
Well, what they're doing is they're waving at their friends in other classes, and then what happens to Ms. Chapman and I is that we get all these kids who are coming out of the classes that are still in session, so that's why the bathroom party happens, is because there's kids coming from lunch, and then they go wave at their friend who's in 7th grade or 8th grade, whatever, and then they're like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom too, and we release them, and then the next thing you know, we have 4 kids from lunch, and then we also have 5 kids from out of class. And so that's where we get like the 10 people in the bathroom, you know, and we get the,
Or people a long line waiting to go to the restroom.
yeah, and it happens almost every A-day that we're sitting out there monitoring. So, I just think that we need to be mindful about sending the kids who are in class out, because, I mean, that's where we get the
I mean,
triple
when
and.
8th and 9th grade lunch is happening, 6th and 7th grade just got from lunch. So as a teacher, feel free to just say no to a 7th grader who needs to go to lunch before intervention, after lunch. No, you can't go, you had an entire lunch period.
Any other questions? We're good? Okay. Ms. Addison is going to take the floor for a moment unless she's running away.
Sure, no, I'm just gonna open up the door, we're ready for announcements.
Good afternoon. So thanks, Davis, Moore,
High five wireless.
and Ms. Jones for bringing up, actually kind of started this discussion. I know you guys have had some issues and concerns, and so far you're doing a great job. I want to talk about briefly the ISR yesterday. Most of you guys observed in the classrooms, culture, and I would say overall we're doing a great job, relatively speaking. When I say great, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. And the growth they saw from last